Hey, Scott Jordan here for Jancast number 124, Thursday, June 2nd, 2022. I have Mark Warner, National Sales Manager of the Boeing Companies, and Jim Varnell, a new guest for Jancast. Jim, nice to see you, and
Always a
calling in
pleasure,
all the way
Scott.
from Canada, I believe.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Okay, well, hey, it's after Memorial Day, Mark.
Yeah, we're already into summer. I don't know. Did all the snow melt up there in Canada already?
Yeah, we lose it for a week and a half, and that's called summer.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
the
believe
crazy thing,
that's when the no-see-ums come in, right?
Yeah.
see, no seams.
Everybody,
Well,
everybody thinks the coast is clear, right?
everybody's talking about summer, Scott, and what the hell happened this spring?
Yeah, it's gone. It's
I
gone.
think
But
it was for about 3 hours last week.
yeah. Well,
I
it was
mean,
a nice weekend, but now it's Tuesday, and I'm all screwed up because I thought it was Monday. So we're
it's
it's
Thursday.
Thursday. I'm sorry, I don't even know what day it is. It's Thursday. I lost a whole day this week. I don't know. Well, let's get on with the show. What's happening?
Well, the big thing that everybody been asking about, and it happened a lot over Memorial Day weekend, was people saying, "Well, what's new in your world?" And it's interesting because the biggest buzz that's going on right now is it basically falls into two primary categories.
Yep.
One category is everybody wants to talk about the COVID spike number 6 and whether or not we need to continue our diligence for disinfecting. And the other thing is, what about monkeypox? Are we all going to turn into, aliens or zombies, or
Yeah.
what's that about? So everybody kind of wants to know a little bit about that. And we've been at least reassuring people that, the COVID spike is controllable because we now know how to go after it in clean environments. And monkeypox isn't likely to take over the world and turn us all into zombies.
Right.
In fact, a lot of the disinfectants that we've used to fight COVID-19 are the same types of disinfectants that go after this virus as well. It's another envelope virus.
Yeah. So if we don't anticipate it picking up, but then again, we didn't anticipate COVID coming on the way it did either. But good to know that our current slate of disinfectants will probably be able to handle it.
Yeah, it's the key is it's an emerging pathogen. And so we and many people have disinfectants that are armed to the teeth to deal with the emerging pathogen provision. And all you really didn't need to know is to make sure that it's effective on something more difficult to kill than monkeypox. And monkeypox is in the easiest to kill category, which is great. But the other big buzz that was coming up all the time, Scott, maybe because people were strolling by looking at my garage. I'll get to that in a minute. But what about floor care? One of the big buzzes has been all kinds of people going through refurb of their homes and their offices and installing this new thing you may have never heard of, Mark, called luxury vinyl tile, luxury vinyl planking. And I'm like, oh yeah, I never heard of that. We've been on the leading edge of that for several years. But the interesting thing is that I warn people about is that you can wear that stuff out. It's just like the old no wax floors from Armstrong. You remember that? If you put it in an industrial or heavy duty setting, you can wear them out. And so people are like, well, what happens then? And I'm like, well, you napalm it or tear it out and replace it, or talk to somebody that has a specialty in caring for it and figure out how to go about restoring it because they have a special kind of matte finish to them. Well, how do I keep from getting there? Well, you need a protector from time to time. That's kind of an interim form of care to try to make sure you don't wear it down to the point of having to do this whole.
But that's not what the salespeople told me. I didn't have to do anything with the floor, Mark. You just clean it.
Yeah. Well, they were referring to the world's oldest floor. It's called a dirt floor. But I mean, anybody that's ever been involved with the military knows you can wear out steel decking if you march them off boots over it. Yeah. So how tough can a polyfilm be compared to steel decking? You got to assume there'll be some wear. But the main thing on dealing with luxury vinyl planking, for example, is making sure you're using the right kind of cleaner. It's not just a neutral cleaner like VCT. It's got a little bit of a heightened pH to go after the embedded grit that gets into the film. And there's a higher level or need of cleaning. And the second type of floor that everybody's asking about is this thing called concrete. And I'm like, what? Really?
Yeah.
Concrete?
I
I have
see
that in
they-
my
they-
garage.
My Wegmans supermarket's all concrete. It's like, wow.
Well, the crazy thing about concrete is like, it's been around since the beginning of time, I guess, since the Romans, but it was always considered to be a substrate. It's what we put other floors over. We put tile over it. We put carpet over it. We put wood over it. We did whatever. We put paint on it, I suppose, in some old school applications. But we have with us today a really very special guest, and he's special in several reasons, not just because I consider him a dear friend, but also because he's the go-to expert, my go-to expert when it comes to all things concrete. And Jim Varnell, we're really, really pleased to be able to have you on Jancast.com. And we're hoping that you can tell us a little bit about why people are so enamored with this substrate called blah concrete. Is there some reason everybody's enamored with it? Like what's the end game here?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. And hopefully I can get you through it. First of all, it should be known that concrete, densified concrete and densified polished concrete is the fastest growing flooring segment in the market today. People have often looked at concrete, and as you've said, Mark, the first question is, what am I going to put over it?
Yeah.
Well, we've taken it from that point to where now you can take a hard troweled steel floor, you can densify it, and you're going to already have a polish on it. And if you want to enhance that, you can densify the concrete and then polish it with diamonds, and you can get a high gloss floor out of it. And in both cases, what happens when you densify is you really help to strengthen the floor. But more importantly, what you do is you increase the floor's abrasion resistance. So as Scott pointed out, it's in his grocery store.
Mhm.
In the old days, if you didn't have densified concrete, within a month, you'd have had traffic lanes.
Hmm.
But
Well-
now that we densify it, it'll wear.
And
Okay.
so one of the things that people have always had concerns about with concrete floors in old school warehousing, for example, was that they tend to start to degrade. In the process of degrading starts to expose the aggregate. It also puts dust up into the air. And so goods in the supply chain and in warehouses all get covered with dust. And it's not just dust from outdoors. It's dust as the concrete degrades. Is what you're describing one way of fighting that?
Yep. If you densify a floor, we will guarantee it will be dust-free and hard.
Hmm.
And if you apply the correct maintenance, we will even give you a lifetime warranty on dust-free and hard.
Oh, is there really maintenance required on a floor like that? I thought the reason they did it was just like Scott said before, like, oh, I thought there was a maintenance-free floor. We never have to care for it. And my answer to that always, Jim, just saying is like, it is maintenance free. Just turn out the lights and lock all the doors. But if there's traffic, there's going to be maintenance, right?
I think the industry, when it first came, I think like all industries, you try to make your product almost too good.
Mhm.
The reality is densified concrete and densified polished concrete are extremely low maintenance floors. Please note, I didn't say no maintenance floors. And I think at the beginning, perhaps some salespeople that were out there selling them maybe got a little confused with the alphabet. So instead of low, it became no. But the reality is, with regular maintenance, a densified polished concrete floor or even a densified floor in a warehouse will give you absolutely no dust. And the dust that you're seeing from the floor you're exactly right, Mark. It's concrete dust, and it can cause all sorts of problems when you breathe it into your nose, because when it hits a mucous membrane, it becomes a high alkali.
Can I ask a neophyte's question? What's the difference between Mark's Garage, just regular concrete, and densified concrete?
Okay. Well, concrete and its strength are somewhat determined by the pour mixture.
Mhm.
So I don't know what is actually in Mark's Garage, but let's assume it's 3,000 PSI concrete.
Right.
Then if you now come and densify that floor, you're going to, at the very least, you're going to increase its abrasion resistance by 100%.
Wow.
Now, when you roll the car in, you roll the car out, and the difference between simply densifying the floor, which is what Mark might do to his garage, if you ground it and then densified and polished it, you would increase its abrasion resistance in excess of 300%.
Wow.
So when we take it into what we would say traffic structures, that's, traffic structure in a warehouse is one thing. Traffic structure in a mall is quite something else. Traffic structure in a doctor's office, traffic structure in an airplane hangar, those are different things. So we want to maximize the ability of the surface to bear traffic. And so the difference between a densified floor and Mark's Garage is probably the densified floor is going to be able to handle a lot more traffic and still maintain itself.
Oh, okay.
One of the questions that I've been getting is, well, what happens when you densify and diamond polish concrete? And the answer is it can be a whole spectrum of outcomes, from just being harder and abrasion resistant to being a mirror, like in an aircraft hangar. Is that the case?
Correct. And you get the beauty of densification and polishing concrete. You get to choose the level of shine and the level of exposed aggregate that you want to have. We can go from a salt and pepper finish, where you're just seeing the fine aggregate. We can go to a moderately exposed aggregate. We can go all the way to a heavily exposed aggregate where you're actually seeing the large pieces of stone. And when you polish that out, it is a magnificent floor. I mean, it's probably a much better appearing floor even than terrazzo at the top end.
Wow.
With all that said, I'm guessing that the stuff I use to clean my garage floor is just your basic everyday high pH degreaser. And that's probably not the best choice, right?
It's probably not the best choice, and probably the most difficulty that all of densified and densified polished concrete floors get into is that everybody wants to treat them with the first thing off the shelf.
Right.
So if we got a stripper up there, that'll work. It's concrete. If we've got a degreaser, that'll work. And that's just not true. There is a very specific reason to clean concrete with the appropriate product. And the appropriate product is going to have a pH in use solution of somewhere around 9.5. The appropriate product is going to have a very high level of soil suspension, because like with most floors, it isn't the chunky dirt that you see. You can pick that up. It's the fines that are left on the floor that are going to cut the heart out of the floor. So you need extreme soil suspension, and to be the best you can be, you need a one-pass cleaner. We don't need to be double and triple scrubbing this thing. We want to be able to put a cleaner in our tank, run it down the floor, and be absolutely sure that we've gotten everything off the floor.
So the idea of soil suspension is not a new idea, but I take it that the technology has been advanced beyond what most of us would think of. Is that true?
Yeah. And I don't want to get specific and talk about a brand in particular, but what has happened is that soil suspension and the way we create it within a detergent has changed.
Right.
We now are creating what is affectionately known as a polar micelle, which has a great affinity for water, and it has oil-seeking ends to it. So when we go out and grab the grit or we grab anything off the floor, we are sure we're going to pick it up because the center of the micelle is wanting to hang on to water. It lends itself dramatically to automatic scrubber cleaning.
That's fascinating. Well,
Yeah.
Another quick question based on the description you gave. What is the a primary reason for a 9.5 pH product? That would be much higher than what people would normally use on a vinyl floor, which would be neutral pH. And I suppose that there's a very definite reason for that.
The pH of cured concrete in its state is somewhere between 9 and 9.8. But we believe that by cleaning the product with 9.5, you are doing no damage to the substrate. You're cleaning it with what it is. And I've always found in the cleaning industry that if you can match what the substrate needs, you get a longer life to the floor and a better cleaning function.
Yeah.
I think you're exactly right.
So a too high alkalinity would damage it, and a neutral cleaner is just not built correctly to handle that type of floor.
Neutral cleaner, we don't think neutral cleaner gets the soil suspension. We don't think activated water gets the soil suspension. And we took a long time in coming up with the process, and it wasn't just first thing off the shelf. We've actually custom designed the product to be able to enhance the concrete, because we put the exact same ingredient in the cleaner that is in the densifier of the concrete. So every time you go to the floor, you help to fortify, enhance, and condition the floor.
We appreciate you sharing all this with us, Jim. I think a lot of folks didn't realize how much science and technology was involved with dealing with something that's just been around forever, concrete floors. But I think many folks are going to find this to be a fascinating discussion.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have been sold a bill of goods that, like Jim said at the beginning, that hey, it's concrete. You don't have to worry about it. You can't damage it. So, and what's wrong with just using the neutral cleaner we already have in the back from 3 years ago? Yeah,
and I think, to be honest, I think that was a mistake that was opted by the industry, because, at least from our standpoint at Curecrete, we don't reach the end user. We have never sold an end user. The end user gets his floor made by one of our certified applicators who do an absolute fantastic job in making the floor the way it is supposed to be and spec. We leave behind a maintenance package, but Scott, like you're pointing out, somebody sits down and says, well, we don't have to adopt that. Let's just use that neutral cleaner. Or, hey, you know what? We've got that drum of detergent that we were using for stripping. Let's use that.
yeah.
And it's wrong, but it's hard to prove it because the degradation happens over such a long period of time.
Oh, okay. Got it.
You know, one of the other elements that people don't think about so much, and we've talked about it in previous Jancast programs, is that using the wrong product or using the product too rich can create a residue prone issue. We've seen that with carpet and textile. Yeah. The same can be said about disinfecting hard surfaces. Mixed improperly, it allows a sticky residue to form. And the same goes for concrete care. You know, using the wrong product or trying to use something too strong, too rich, can actually leave these residues that cause resoiling to occur rapidly on concrete floors as well, creating the traffic lanes from the forklifts and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's one of the big takeaways that I got out of the conversation regarding the special cleaners that are needed. So obviously you've been hinting around some very special cleaner. Where can somebody get a little bit more information on this stuff?
Well, first of all, I'd like to point out one thing, because it always sounds when you tell people that it's got to be something special, that the next thing in their head is, oh my gosh, it's going to be expensive. The reality is, to use the appropriate concrete cleaner to clean your floor is going to cost you less than 3/1000ths of a cent a square foot. I don't know how it can get lower costs than that and still be fortifying the floor, enhancing the floor, and conditioning the floor for other operations.
Yeah. Well, even a little bit extra on that end is if you think about like my example, the Wegmans supermarket, previously they had vinyl tile or whatever they had down. They were putting down floor finish and stripping it out once a month or whatever. That's astronomically more expensive than what you're talking about.
And certainly not environmentally friendly. Every time we take that
Yeah.
stripper to the drain and pour it down. And with concrete, densified concrete and densified polished concrete, if you will maintain it correctly, it's a lifetime floor.
Yeah.
Well, I'm guessing that you could spend a lifetime studying all this science. You know, where does somebody get more information on this?
Well, if anybody wants to find it, there are a couple of places. You can go to curecrete.com and it's there. But more importantly, you can probably contact Bullen.
Yep.
And the reason I say that is when we looked for whom we wanted to partner with, we didn't just decide that any old distributor would do. We thought we needed a distributor who had the knowledge level and the commitment level to take what is a specialty product and go to the market with it and be able to explain it in a justifiable manner to the customer. The distribution network we chose was Bullen.
And thank you for that. Yeah. So we'll put some links below the video here when we post it up with your info as well as on our new products page. And our salespeople, Mark, you could probably fill the listeners in. Our salespeople are fully trained on this product and have been actively selling it for a while now.
The most remarkable comment that I've been getting back is everybody loves to be able to have a product that they can go out and make a claim about and then prove it. Actually do a demonstration or an on-site deal and prove that what's been claimed is true. So, yeah, the sales team has been pretty inspired by the fact that every time they're given the opportunity to prove their claim, it comes out positive. There's been probably hundreds of demos without picking an individual number, and not one instance where the product failed. So that's pretty stunning. I mean, that's you would expect certain instances where it might not actually perform, possibly, but we haven't run into that at all. The other thing is that part of what the Bullen sales team is trained to do is identify whether or not that concrete floor is actually a candidate for diamond polishing or densification, or some concrete is, and some concrete may not be. Some concrete might be just so degraded that it needs something other, more extreme, maybe new surfacing or something like that to be dealt with. But yeah, the sales team's pretty well trained on being able to help people down that decision process. So thank you very much, Jim. We love having like experts, subject matter experts on Jancast.com. makes us look smarter than we are. So thank you for joining us.
Mark, the difference between an idiot and an expert is who introduces you. So thank you very much.
What a great note to end on.
The other thing I'd like to mention before I go, if when you go look at the Ashford Formula website, you will notice that there is a square foot meter down in the bottom that is rolling and recording square footage done. It is, when I checked it this morning, it's over 5.5 billion square feet.
Wow.
So thank you again. It was great. I'd be happy to do it again if you need it.
You got it. Well, I'm sure we're going to get a lot of questions based on the show, but thanks a lot for joining us, Jim, and get back to the break in the weather and enjoy things before the no-see-ums come out.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. See you guys.